The Covenant of Stars hung in the void between galaxies, its massive hull gleaming under the light of 1,000 distant suns. Commander Elsa Reeve stood on the observation deck, her reflection ghosted against the viewport as she watched the archaeological team prepare their equipment below. This was humanity's first invitation to a Galactic Council excavation site, a privilege earned after decades of proving themselves worthy among the stars. "Commander," Leon Martinez called from the workstation behind her, "the Cathari delegation is requesting your presence in the artifact chamber." Elsa turned, her boots clicking against the deck plating. Leon was her chief science officer, brilliant and methodical, though his perpetually worried expression suggested he carried the weight of every discovery on his shoulders. Today that expression seemed particularly heavy. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing's wrong per se. It's just," he hesitated. "The artifact they found. The Cathari are very excited, more excited than I've ever seen them." The Cathari didn't do excited. In 3 years of working alongside them, Elsa had learned that the ancient species maintained emotional equilibrium as a philosophical principle. For them to show excitement meant something extraordinary had been unearthed. The artifact chamber was buried 3 kilometers beneath the surface of a dead world that orbited a dying star. Elsa and Leon descended in a crystalline lift tube, surrounded by representatives from a dozen species. The Cathari, tall crystalline beings that refracted light like living prisms. The Vorath, insectoid warriors with mandibles that clicked in their complex language. The Seleni, peaceful aquatic beings encased in environmental suits filled with bioluminescent fluid. At the bottom, High Curator Velshara waited, her crystalline form pulsing with patterns that betrayed deep emotion. "Commander Reeve," Velshara's voice resonated like wind chimes. "We have discovered something that changes everything we know about the Precursors. The Precursors were the great mystery of the galaxy. Every spacefaring civilization had found their ruins, their impossible technology, their echoes. They had vanished 1 billion years ago, leaving behind wonders that even the oldest races couldn't fully comprehend." Velshara led them deeper into the excavation. The walls were covered in flowing script that seemed to shift when viewed directly. Finally, they entered a chamber dominated by a single object, a pillar of black material that absorbed light, creating a void in space. "We believe this is a Precursor archive," Velshara explained. "Our scanners indicate it contains genetic and cultural databases of species from across the ancient universe." She gestured to a scanning array positioned before the pillar. "Each delegate will submit to the scanner. We hope to learn if any modern species carries Precursor DNA, a direct link to the ancients." One by one, species approached the scanner. The Cathari. No match detected. The Vorath. No match detected. The Seleni. No match detected. 6 more species. 6 more negatives. Then it was humanity's turn. Leon glanced at Elsa, who nodded. He stepped forward, placing his hand on the scanner interface. The pillar hummed, its surface rippling like disturbed water. Then, in a dozen languages simultaneously, a synthetic voice echoed through the chamber. "Precursor genetic markers confirmed. Descendant species identified." The chamber fell silent. Velshara's crystalline body froze mid-pulse. A Vorath warrior's mandibles hung open. Leon removed his hand, looking back at Elsa with wide eyes. She stepped forward, her mind racing through implications she couldn't yet fully grasp, and placed her own hand on the scanner. "Precursor genetic markers confirmed. Descendant species identified. Authorization level, Omega." The pillar's surface exploded with light. Holographic displays materialized in the air, showing star charts, genetic sequences, and flowing script. Velshara stumbled backward, her usual composure shattered. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Humans are one of the youngest spacefaring species. You've only been traveling between stars for 300 years. Leon was already analyzing the data streams, his fingers dancing across his portable terminal. "Commander, these genetic markers, they're not recent insertions. They're fundamental to human DNA. We've carried them for our entire evolutionary history." Elsa studied the holographic displays. One showed Earth, not as it was now, but as it had been millions of years ago. Another showed a branching timeline, with one path leading to humanity, others leading to the Precursors. We're not descendants, she said softly, understanding crystallizing. We're what they became. Explain, Velshara demanded, regaining some composure. Leon pulled up a genetic comparison. The precursors didn't disappear. They simplified. They encoded themselves into the genetic structure of a pre-sentient species on Earth, then let evolution take its course. They gave up their technology, their knowledge, everything, to start over. Why would anyone do that? A Vorath warrior growled. Elsa accessed more of the archive, and suddenly she understood. The precursors hadn't been gods. They'd been explorers, scientists, philosophers, much like the council races. But they'd reached a point where their technology had made them stagnant. They'd solved every problem, answered every question, conquered death itself, so they'd chosen to forget. To become something new, to rediscover wonder. They were bored, Elsa said, and despite the gravity of the moment, she smiled. They were so advanced, so powerful that existence had lost meaning. So they pressed the reset button. They became human. The implications rippled through the chamber. Humanity wasn't just another young species joining the galactic community. They were the ancients reborn, carrying within them the legacy of the galaxy's greatest civilization, even if they hadn't known it until now. Velshara approached Elsa, her crystalline form resonating with complex emotions. For 3 years we've treated humanity as pupils, as newcomers who needed our guidance. You did, Elsa said gently. We still do. Yes, we carry precursor DNA, but that doesn't mean we remember anything they knew. We're starting fresh, just as they intended. Leon was still processing data. Commander, there's more. The archive contains precursor technology databases, star charts, everything they knew. It's all keyed to human genetic markers. They left it all for us to find when we were ready. Or to never find, Elsa added. They gave us a choice. We could have remained on Earth, never reaching the stars, and this would have stayed buried forever. We earned this discovery by becoming spacefaring on our own. She looked around at the assembled delegates, species who had guided humanity, taught them, welcomed them into the galactic community despite their youth. The precursors left us their knowledge, Elsa said, but we don't need to claim it all at once. We're still learning, still growing. And frankly, I think that's exactly what they would have wanted. Velshara's crystalline form pulsed with something that might have been respect, or perhaps relief. A wise perspective, Commander. Perhaps humanity inherited more than just precursor DNA. As the delegation began discussing protocols and next steps, Leon moved beside Elsa, his voice low. They've been teaching us for years, treating us like children. Doesn't it bother you knowing we're actually the precursors? Elsa watched the delegates, species who had become friends, mentors, partners. She thought about the journey humanity had taken, the mistakes they'd made, the lessons they'd learned. No, she said finally. The precursors chose to forget everything and start over because they understood something important. The journey matters more than the destination. They could have left themselves an instruction manual for reclaiming their power, but instead they gave us a blank slate and the freedom to fill it ourselves. She smiled. Took them long enough to figure that out. The archive hummed behind them, containing the knowledge of 1 billion years, waiting patiently for the day when humanity, the precursors reborn, would be ready to accept their inheritance. But not today. Today there was still too much to learn, too much to discover, too much wonder left in being human. And that, Elsa thought, was exactly how it should be.